Thank you, Jaswinder. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Robert Hutching. I will be chairing the hearing today. I'm joined on the panel by Robert Belenky and Koreski. The assessor representing the Assessment and Taxation Department is Jennifer Martins, and our administrative personnel is Jaswinder Kumar. To the Zoom participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 7 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony.
Yes, Mr. Thank you. Madam Assessor, please state your full name.
Jennifer Suzanne Martins.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Story, please state your full name.
My name is Jared Story.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jaswinder. Good evening, Mr. Story, Ms. Martins. First item on the docket date is item number 1, file number 22-1367. Address is 16 Keewatin Street. We're dealing with a 2023 realty assessment appeal plus a classification appeal, I believe, Mr. Story. Is that correct?
You are correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Martins.
Read it in.
No, one moment, please, until we get to your brief. Okay, Ms. Martins, please. 16 Keewatin Street.
Thank you. This is file number 221367. This is roll number 0756905110. That is 16 Keewatin Street for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $496,000. The classification is 60, other property, and liability status is taxable. Do we want to talk about liability now or go through the valuation first?
I think that we'll deal with, excuse me, the classification first.
Wonderful. Okay. So may I proceed?
So Miss Martins, you stated that your classification is class code 60 taxable and you are remaining with that classification.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Story, bear with us. I think we're going to have to find a document of what you're presenting here.
Oh, okay.
Would it be in your brief?
Yes, precisely. It starts at, this will start at page 8 of my brief under the header property description, and then there's a subheader called the organization, and that's where I'll start my presentation.
I don't know if I have this brief. I just have the 3 attachments to it.
Oh,
Did it come in a separate email?
No, all the documents we sent to you in the same email, I believe.
it would be item number 5 on the SharePoint. Ms. Martins?
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, I'm ready. Thank you very much.
Okay. And Mr. Story, you said start on page 8, is that correct?
That's where we discuss the exemption. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, please proceed.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are requesting that the class code be changed to 40S, and the reason being is that the primary purpose and the dominant activity carried out in this property is to serve the local and global relief efforts of the Mennonite Central Committee. So I think we all know about the good work that's being done by the MCC, and this is their property. They are indeed a charitable organization, and their dominant purpose, and this is important, is primarily for the purpose of giving relief or assistance to indigent persons. Now, indigent simply means the poor or the needy. The operation is a not-for-profit thrift store dedicated to community assistance, volunteers who typically come by way of groups such as SEED, WASO, groups who are in the space where they provide opportunities for work and training for folks with substantial barriers to work. Typically, that's where their workforce comes from, and also with volunteers. Those items are collected, cleaned, priced, and made available at a low cost to people in need. On page 9, you see their charitable status. They are indeed a registered charity, designated as a public foundation, typified as other purposes beneficial to the community. Now, just as background, Mr. Chair, we appealed for much the same reasons on a different MCC property on Chalmers. I've included that decision, and it was indeed accepted. I believe, Mr. Chair, I think you were on that board, if I'm not mistaken, in June of 2022, and I've included that decision in my submission here. So it's much the same argument. You've heard it before, but effectively, this is simply another community assistance center run by the MCC, where they sell donated items at a low cost. We have all of that information here, and then actually, if you just follow me, please, to page 11. Now, for the MCC on Chalmers, under their CRA designation, it does say that they're a organization giving relief to poverty. This one just says other benefits to the community. But if you follow me to page 11, where you see the program descriptions, where it says program type, and then OP, that's ongoing program. And you can see that going back to 2004 up to present day, that the work they do here is raising funds for qualified donees by selling donated furniture, relieving poverty by providing free or discounted furniture to needy individuals, and then providing work experience for individuals in local work programs. So we are suggesting that satisfies the condition of Section 23(1), 23(1)(e), I should say, the Municipal Assessment Act, which states that subject to Sections 25 and 26, real property is exempt from taxation for school purposes where the real property is owned by or is held in trust for and is used by a charitable organization primarily for the purpose of giving relief or assistance to aged, indigent, or sick persons to a maximum exemption of 0.81 hectares. Again, I've included some more information here, but I think we've basically covered it. The operation is at its core a holistic charitable organization, and it is its overwhelming dominant purpose is to help those in need. And I should point out too that any of the funds that are generated here over and above the operating funds go towards the local and global relief efforts of the MCC. So they are indeed wholly charitable. So I think I'll leave it there, but that is effectively my position on the request for the class code change, and I'm happy to take your questions and discuss the matter further with you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Ms. Martins, any questions of the applicant regarding liability?
Yes, other than staff that they hire to work there, are there any other indigent people that are coming there for any other types of aid?
Besides the work training. So there's the work training, and then also the low cost home essentials. That's why their products are priced very low, and that's to provide the opportunity for indigent folks to purchase furniture. In other MCCs, it's household goods. This one is dedicated specifically to furniture.
Okay.
But the same concept applies, yeah.
So it's the same concept that it's not just people who are in financial need that go and shop there. It's anyone who'd like to shop there is welcome to shop there, and they use any profits for. Is that correct? Similar to other secondhand shops?
Well, I don't know that I would say it's similar to other secondhand shops, but yes, anybody can certainly shop there. Now, if we look at what CRA talks about when it comes to these charities, they are certainly permitted to run what are called related businesses. And when they look at what constitutes a business or a adventure into trade or commerce, typically businesses do not solicit for donations. And typically businesses do not rely on donations to satisfy their inventories. So there's a profit, so to speak, that's generated, but that profit is then funneled up to the larger organization, the MCC. And again, those funds support the efforts of the MCC, which are primarily go towards helping the sick and indigent.
Okay, so the business side of this location, the store, its purpose is to earn money. And then what they do with that money is they give that to someone else to do work with the indigent. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, it's run by the MCC. It's not a separate business. It's basically, if you donate something to these folks, they convert it into cash, and then that cash goes to the MCC. They are the MCC. This is the MCC. You can see when you walk in, there's a huge sign that says benefiting the work of the Mennonite Central Committee. That's what they do here. So it's not a separate business. This is the MCC. This is how they raise funds for their programs.
Okay, so Brooklands Weston MCC Community Assistance Center Inc. Is the same as MCC Canada, or
well, it's the same organization. That's why it's.
But
MCC
this isn't like a separate organization in and of itself. Is this like MCC Canada operates?
This is under MCC Canada. Yeah, absolutely. But this is incorporated as, so there's, yes, the answer is yes.
So, okay, so if we look at the charitable status, who is the charitable status listed under? Is that Brooklands Weston MCC, or is that?
Yep. If you look at page 9 of my brief, Brooklands Weston MCC Community Assistance Center Incorporated.
So they are on their own, and they have a charitable status on their own. They're not.
Yes, but they're clearly connected to MCC.
They're connected to, but they're not the same. So when the money that they make as profits, does Brooklands West MCC Community Assistance Center directly then use those profits to help the indigent, or do they then give the
Yes,
profits
that's
to?
well, they are effectively the same. They're not. When you say that they're not the same, they are the same. They have a different.
Do they have the
registered-
same? Do they have the same charity number?
No, I
Business
suppose they don't have the
registration?
same. No, they are registered on their own, but they are
Okay.
certainly part of the overall umbrella organization of MCC Canada.
Okay.
That's why it has
So there's
MCC in their
an
name.
umbrella organization that helps, and this is separate from that, but they work towards the same goals.
Well, it's not separate from that. It's the funds that are raised here over and above the operational costs go to the MCC.
Okay. I have some rebuttal. Is now a good time for that, or can we do that after questions?
I think we'll do it after questions, please, Ms.
Okay.
Martin.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Do you have any other questions of Mr. Story at this time?
No.
Okay, we'll leave it. Okay. We'll deal with the rebuttal right away. Excuse me, Robert, do you have any questions of the applicant?
One minor question. He mentioned the property class to be what? I missed hearing the value or is he not familiar with the classifications of
no.
these?
It should be 40S, sir.
40S?
S as in Sam. Yes.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Robert. Mark, any questions of the Mr. Story?
Yes. I'm basically on the same track as the questions that Ms. Martins was asking. Is the Mennonite Central Committee incorporated separately in Manitoba from the Brooklands Weston MCC Community Assistance Center, Inc.?
I can check on that. I don't know off the top of my head, but you can have a look. Blank. So the question is whether MCC Canada in Winnipeg has a different charitable number. Let me just see.
That would be a second question. The first question is there a separate corporation called Mennonite Central Committee, and is it incorporated in Manitoba or?
Okay.
Sorry.
So, yes, there is a Mennonite Central Committee Canada, Mennonite Central Committee Manitoba, Inc. So those are both listed here. And in terms of their registration numbers, they do appear to have different registration numbers, but ultimately, now that's the first one is from 1967. Those two are both from 1967. So that is the overarching, that's the larger body of the MCC. So this would be incorporated separately, effective as of 2004, which I believe is when this store started operations.
And are there other properties that would be known as MCC properties in Winnipeg?
Yes,
like
there are.
Like the Brooklands one, and do they have separate incorporation as well?
Yes. So I handle the one on Chalmers, and they actually just spoke about it today. I have it right here. 1 second. I believe they are incorporated separately. There's one on there's one in the there's this one on Brooklands. There's one in the West End. There's one on Selkirk Avenue, and there's one on Chalmers. And there's a slightly different type of operation, and it is on Henderson Highway. My sense is that they would, actually, Brooklands and Weston. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I'm not sure if they're all separately incorporated. I would guess that they probably are, but again, I don't know that it has a bearing on whether or not they are indeed charitable. Our argument, to be fair, is that they are their dominant purpose is as charitable organizations as opposed to typical businesses. And I have Chalmers here. Sorry about that. I'll just pull it up so I can tell you exactly. I think that they have a different registration. And yes, they do. So they're incorporated separately, but they are all indeed part of the larger MCC.
But they're separate corporations. So the question becomes, does 23(1)E apply strictly to Brooklands? Because that's who the applicant is here, correct? This is
Right.
this is the corporation that the assessment is done in the name of.
Right.
So then it's a question of whether that section applies to Brooklands, totally
Sure.
aside from MCC, the larger organizations, right? Okay.
Well, they are a branch of the MCC, and that's why they're
But it's a
incorporated
separate
as
corporation. So we're just dealing with what this corporation does, correct?
right. And you're absolutely correct. And when we look at their under the Government of Canada charity details site, we do see that they are a registered charity for other purposes beneficial to the community. And then we see that what they do under their ongoing programs is to raise funds for qualified donees by selling donated furniture and relieving poverty by providing free or discounted furniture to needy individuals. So,
Okay.
So yes, I believe they do satisfy the condition.
So your first page there that shows Government of Canada detail page,
yeah,
I assume that has been pasted from a website into your document. Is that correct?
This is on page 9 of my.
Yeah, that is correct.
That's from the federal government. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so you've taken it from a website and pasted it in here?
Yep. So that's called the Canada Charities database. But yeah, I've snipped it out from there. That's the source.
All right. Yeah, but what I'm after is it's always best that we see original sources, not a secondary source. So you're saying that this is a copy directly out of their database.
Oh,
what
absolutely.
What about the second page? Is that from the same database? Is it just page 2 of the
this
Canada
one may be
website?
this may be from a different charity. It may be from a different site, but it's still, I mean, it's a current, it's sorry, I'm not sure. You're asking if it's from a different site. It might be from Charity Helps or Charity Finder or some such thing.
What we really benefit from most is being able to verify that this is the reputable source. This is the original source of information, rather than just somebody saying, yeah, this is where it came from.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, if you do go to the Government of Canada charities detail search, you will find all of the same information. And that is, but I see your point, and I will ensure to do that exactly in that manner in the future. But yes, it is indeed from the Government of Canada site. You can look up any charity, you can look up all sorts of details about them, their programs, their funding, and that is where that first page that you mentioned from, that's the charities detail page.
Okay, so then Brooklands is not providing relief to the sick or the aged. Is that correct?
They're the sick or the aged. Well, no, it's typically for the relief of poverty. So that would qualify as the indigent, the poor,
the indigent. Okay, so we can center on that word then.
Correct.
You said that the people who work there come from organizations, and these supplied by these organizations that help the needy, which you've equated to indigent, and that is part of how Brooklands meets 23(1)E. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's the workers that in essence are also fulfilling the requirements to 23(1)E.
Yes. So that is what we'll call a sort of a second layer, is that their workforce, there are volunteers to be certain, but there are also folks who are coming through groups like WASO, groups like SEED, groups like OFE. That's opportunities for employment. So folks who have what we'll call substantial barriers to work, they're provided work training. So it's, I guess why I'm mentioning that is part of our position is that this operation is at its core a holistic charity. So that is
Okay, but
part of
let me
it.
just
But
let me just hone in rather on the holistic.
sure.
I need to hone in on just these employees. And so you're saying that part of the way in which they serve the needy is through the people that they get there working, and they give them
Precisely.
work experience. Okay,
Yes.
got that. Is this all of the people that work there, or are they a small percentage, the majority?
It's a majority. I don't have the exact numbers, but it is typically a majority. I know
It's
in
the majority.
yes, it would be a
Okay.
majority, and there are also volunteers. I should point that out as well. So
All right. Okay. Then the people who come there to
Mhm.
buy furniture,
yes,
are you saying that these are needy people and therefore this is giving them relief by allowing them to buy secondhand furniture?
right. So partially, it's not exclusive. Anybody can walk in and purchase the donated goods. As I mentioned earlier, though, so okay, so there's two parts to this answer. Yes, they make these products available at a low cost for needy people. In some cases, they give folks furniture. That's part of what they do. But the other part of what they do is when something is donated, they then sell that good and don't and convert it into cash, and that cash then funnels up to the larger MCC. So
Okay.
I suppose it satisfies it in a number of ways. Yes.
Okay, let's stick back with who the people are who are coming in. Has Brooklands told you what percentage they would regard as needy versus somebody who's looking for a good buy?
No, I don't have that information.
Okay, so then what percentage of their revenue is the excess over and above the costs of operation that are applied to the needy through means
Right.
other than the selling of furniture?
Through means other than the selling of furniture?
Yes. You're saying
So
that it's essentially the profit. The profit is used for
so all of the revenue over and above the operational costs goes into the coffers of the MCC to support their work locally and globally. That's
so
what they do. So it's
then
not a
what you're
profit.
saying-
Yeah.
So what you're saying then is that the profit that serves the needy is actually used by MCC, not by Brooklands MCC Corporation. It's a different organization that actually does the charitable work
Well,
with
it's
those
related.
monies.
It's certainly a related corporation. They're
But it's a
all
different
related.
but it's a different corporation, correct?
Well, it's a branch of the MCC. This is the Brooklands Weston MCC Community Assistance Center, and they serve the purposes of the MCC. So, respectfully, I would not suggest that they are that they have different purposes or aims. This is they serve the the programs of the larger MCC. That's what they do. That's where their economic profit or their revenues over and above operational are directed.
Are you aware of any court cases that have pursued this line as to whether it is the people working there who make this qualify under 23(1)(e), or is it the funds that are used, or is it funds that are given to another corporation to make use of? Are you aware of any court cases that give us direction?
The court case that would give us direction, to answer your question, no, but the court case that would give us direction is the Law Society of Manitoba. I've provided that for you. That's based on a seminary of learning. Effectively, what happened there was it was pursued that there's and this is where some of this language about holistic and predominant primary purpose comes in. The law, and I've provided that to you, the Law Society was fully exempt as a seminary of learning. Now, clearly, we're looking at a slightly different exemption, but it does provide us some guidance. So the fact that the work they do here, they do other or ancillary activities like selling furniture for the sake of their charity, but in that case, it was decided that 1/3 of the law society ought to be exempted. That was challenged by the city assessor, and ultimately the entirety of the property was then exempted under Seminary of Learning. So that would be the closest decision that we have in terms of exemptions, but we don't have anything that speaks directly to, you know, the part that you're talking about with like the social opportunity or barriers to work or the folks who get training on in this property.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of the Law Society case was there were 3 legs to its stool. One was, is this a seminary of learning? Therefore, one had to determine what a seminary was.
Correct.
Is it an educational institution? Secondly, and then thirdly, if it is an educational institution, is it all an educational institution or only part of it? Am I wrong in that?
Was it? No, I think you're quite right. Was its primary or dominant purpose educative? And finally, is it, I believe the judge suggested that if it is indeed primarily educative, which they discerned that it was, is it material to go room by room and decide which parts of it ought to be exempt and which parts ought not to be exempt? So ultimately, he exempted the entirety of the property. But yes, you are quite right.
So is there any question in this case as to whether all of this property is devoted to serving the needy? I haven't heard you talk about.
No, I don't believe so.
No,
I think the entirety of the property. I think it's a given. And when I'm speaking of the to the holistic nature of how this is entirely a charitable organization, all of the activities here are indeed charitable. I think it does speak to to that case, to be fair, where they talk about the holistic nature of the educative property of that case. So they are slightly different, but there is some, that case does provide us with some illumination regarding primary or dominant purpose. And we are arguing that the dominant purpose of this property is indeed charitable with the aim of helping the indigent.
You also provided, unless I'm wrong, the municipal board order. Is that yours or is that from somebody else?
I provided a BOR order from 2021 for another MCC that I handled, where it was indeed where the exemption was granted.
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe there's more of a question for Jeswinder then. There's a municipal board order in this that has to do with a business assessment appeal, where what was central to the appeal was the base rate.
Oh, no, I don't believe that's mine, sir.
That's another.
Maybe it came with your brief, so maybe it belongs to some any other file.
So was this provided in error or is it applicable to some other application before us today?
I'm sorry, I don't actually see that in my.
It's Great West Life Insurance Company and the city assessor.
It's item number 8 on their SharePoint.
All right. Well, at any rate, doesn't sound like it's something that you're pointing to, Mr. Story.
Nope.
I don't see one of our orders with respect to Chalmers here, unless I'm missing it, Mr. Chairman. And right, frankly, I'm glad I don't see it.
I do not either. No.
Pardon me?
I do not either.
You do not either. Okay. Well, then that's not an issue. I'm sure, Mr. Story, you're quite well aware of why we don't want to see our past orders. That's all my questions for now. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mark. Jennifer, can you just wait 1 second? I'm going to ask a couple of questions.
Okay, I was going to say I have a couple other questions if you don't mind.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I could see you anxious to. Okay, so now I've lost my page here. Page 9, Mr. Story. From what we've discussed so far, I'm going to page 9.
Yes.
My understanding that Brooklands West and MCC has its separate registration number for, they're calling it a foundation, addressed at 18 Keewatin Street. Am I registered in 2004, January 1st?
Yes, it's considered a public foundation.
Yeah, and then, and it's registered as a charity.
That's
Under
correct.
with its
Yep.
separate registration number for this particular charity, as opposed to, as Mr. Boreski asked you, MCC or the umbrella organizations. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the original MCC is incorporated in the 1960s, and this was registered as a charity in the year 2004 when it began operations. Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, kind of following on Mr. Boreski's questions, there's profits that are, they take donations from anybody, I guess. There are profits that you said they might give away some items that are donated possibly as part of their function, but they also sell to make money too. Now, would the money first be profits first assigned to Brooklyn's Weston MCC at a ceiling, let's say to cover, for instance, rent and heating, utilities, that kind of thing. And then is there a ceiling where they give donate the rest or funnel it back into MCC? Would have you any details on that business plan, I guess I'll call it?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. They they maintain a very, very low cost business, and all of the profits, the economic profits over and above the operational costs, just like you're suggesting, the utilities, rent. Well, they own the building, so it's not rent, but taxes, insurance, whatever. All revenue over and above those operational costs that are then they go to the MCC. That's how it functions.
Okay. Any idea what the threshold is for that profits being shared? How much they keep? How much they
donate everything above the operational costs. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. And there are volunteers that you're saying that do gain work experience, but there's also some paid employees. Would that be fair?
Yes. Typically, these properties, these operations have a very, very low amount of paid folks who are sort of in it's called the management side, and then volunteers who work there, and then also folks who are looking for work and job training, and those typically come through other social enterprises.
Okay. So it's your contention that touching on all those points, this qualifies for exemption under MAA 23-1. Is that correct?
Yes, for the purpose of giving assistance to the indigent. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Martins, when you're ready, please.
Thank you. I'm curious, I'm confused why this property would be switched from class code 60 to class code 40. How would this property be considered institutional?
It's 40S. So 40S that denotes a school tax exemption.
The S denotes the school tax exemption. The 60 is an other property. The 40 is an institutional property. So if you're asking to switch from 60T, you're asking to switch from a taxable other property, which we do for most stores and other properties. You're asking to switch that to 40S, which is an institutional, which is school tax exempt.
Right. So when a property becomes school tax exempt, a class code 60, the appropriate class code is 40S. Are you suggesting it's not? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I'm confused at how this that's a 40. The class code 40 is an institutional property.
Okay. When we have a class code 60 and we successfully appeal for the exemption, that class code becomes 40S.
But this is not an institutional property. How would it classify as an institutional property?
I'm not sure where you're getting institutional property from. It's
from 40S. The
40S.
Definitions of the class codes. Okay,
I'm not sure. I know that when we look at, well, I won't speak to other decisions, but I know that that's typically how we, what class code are you suggesting then in order to?
I would suggest it stays in other property.
No, but if there was hold on, if there was a school tax exemption, what would the
Well-
class code then become?
Institutional properties are things like senior citizens residence, schools, seminaries of learning. Those things are institutions. Are they not? Am I mistaken?
There are a number of properties with partial exemptions. We have
Mhm.
strip malls with partial exemptions, and those are classified as 40S for that
Okay.
income stream.
Checking. Now, quick question. How many of the staff are volunteers versus staff that you would like to consider as being there for work practice or whatever that is? Do you know?
A majority of the staff, I don't have the exact number, but a majority of the staff would be volunteer or folks who are there as part of the training exercise.
Okay.
Yep.
And you said that all of the activities are charitable, but then we've also gleaned that the goal of this specific property is to earn money to get a profit to give to MCC to benefit the indigent. Is that?
No, the goal of this property is not, it's not a, if we go specifically by CRA, you wouldn't typically call this a business because it relies on stocking its inventory with donations. Further, you wouldn't consider it a typical business because it's soliciting donations. Its goal is to raise money for the MCC. That's what its goal is.
I'm just looking for my rebuttal.
Before we pursue the rebuttal, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I have more questions.
Okay, Mr. Bresky, noted.
Okay.
Any
Then
other
thank you.
questions, Ms. Martins?
I'm done with my questions. I'll just wait until the rebuttal then, please.
Thank you. Mr. Bresky, please.
Mr. Story, do you have the Municipal Assessment Act and its regulations handy?
I have it in front of me, yes.
If
I have it on my
you
screen.
were to open the regulation for classification and portioning.
Okay.
And you went to the definition of institutional property. I'm hoping that you think this might clarify a bit of confusion here. Specifically, this is section 8 of the regulation, 8B. And if you can find that and can read it for us.
I'm sorry, I've got the act open here. This is, sorry, I'm sorry, which section?
The
is this here?
regulation, the classification
Oh.
regulation.
Regulation RE varying portions.
Section 8 of the regulation.
Yeah,
It is, the regulation is called Classification of Property and Portioned Values Regulation.
okay, now I have it open here.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm looking on my copy, it's page 8, and it is section 8 entitled Institutional Property.
okay,
And section B, if you
Yep.
could read that, please.
Section B, land and buildings or any portion of land and buildings that are exempt under section 23(1) of the Municipal Assessment Act from taxation for school purposes.
So does that then mean that if it receives an exemption, it thereby qualifies as institutional property?
I suppose, yeah, I suppose that's, yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions for now, again.
Thank you, Mark. Ms. Martins, I understand you have rebuttal. Is that correct? Is it verbal or is it written?
It's, I have a municipal board decision.
Yeah, it's in the folder, Mr. Chair.
What item would that be, please, Jaswinder?
It's labeled as A&T rebuttal. Rebuttal A&T. Must be
Rebuttal.
at the very top.
Where is this?
Must be at the very top of the SharePoint folder.
Perhaps there's a version that I need to refresh because mine's not showing that.
Yeah, you can try refreshing that.
Ah, got it. And this is a court decision, is that correct?
Yes, this is from the, sorry, this is, sorry. It's a municipal assessment, or sorry, a municipal decision from the Queen's Bench. And this is in regards to Steinbach Community Self-Help Center, which is similar in nature in that it is a secondhand store or self-help store that relies on donations. And if you look on the second page, it shows that the entire property is taxable, and it just shows that the Municipal Assessment Act, it was not intended to have secondhand stores to be deemed as being tax exempt.
Sorry, may I make may I ask questions, Mr. Chair?
You know what? I still haven't found this document. I apologize. I've refreshed 3 times and I still don't know what item it is, or I'm sorry.
It's labeled as rebuttal, Mr. Chair. Rebuttal hyphen A&T.
Item A and B.
No,
You might have to refresh yours as well, Mr. Chair.
just found the word rebuttal.
It's the second line from the bottom on the list.
Ah, okay, way down there. Okay. I have it now, item number 29. I apologize. Thank you. Ms. Martins, would you mind repeating what you said?
No problem. So this is a decision from the Queen's Bench, and it's looking at in Steinbach. It was the municipal assessor against Steinbach Community Self-Help Center in the town of Steinbach. And if you look on page 2, it was determined that the property was not exempt from taxation based on being a self-help store that relies on donations and is selling at a lower cost in order to support the needs of those in need in the area.
Okay. Mr. Story, any questions on that document presented or rebuttal?
I do. Now, where does it say that this is a secondhand store that provides, like, where do you see any commentary regarding the case details? I see a 2-page summary judgment. How are we to infer what you've just said is correct?
It's the self-help store that was in Steinbach. I don't know their I don't know if it's still in operation or what their taxable status or if their charitable status was, but it's similar in that that is what they based their request for exemption from taxation on.
But okay, but how do we know that that is indeed the case? This is a summary decision from 1982 with no commentary. Okay, but how do we know that the case details were remotely similar to what we're discussing today? If there's nothing here.
Well, because I don't have the documentation of its charitable status, but it was a community self-help center, which was why they went for the exemption.
Okay, but do you have anything to back that up, or are you simply inferring that from this 2-page summary decision? There's nothing here in evidence to support what you're saying.
I had conversations with one of the staff who was around when this was going through, and it was in with their evidence, and it has since been lost. It's from the 80s.
So suffice
from
it to
verbal,
say, though,
I don't have evidence on paper to submit in that regard, but as a professional who's working with the department, who is speaking under oath, that's what the case was.
okay, but just to be very clear, there is nothing in evidence here outside of this 2-page.
Absolutely not. No,
Okay.
no, there is not.
Okay, those are my questions, Mr. Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Robert, any questions on the rebuttal presented by the assessor?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Boreski, any questions?
Was this document provided to you, Ms. Martins, for the purpose of this application by the city's legal department?
No.
All right.
That's all. I was on vacation until today, so this is the first day that I'm looking at any of this evidence.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So, Ms. Martins, you're presenting the results of this board decision from 1992, but you're also making verbal statement that a senior assessor gave you some background on the that this Steinbach Community Self-Help Center was a charitable organization, and which you feel is similar to the subject property. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes, it was given to me years ago to use in another case similar to this.
Okay. All right. Mr. Story, any questions arising from that?
No, I think it's okay. I think suffice to say, this is not providing us with any illumination. There's no case details here, so it's very difficult to determine the exactly what's going on.
Okay. Now, shall we summarize dealing with the classification? Ms. Martins, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think that it has been shown that this is a property that is a store. They may have work practicum people in there to learn how to work, but many other stores do. This is operating for the purpose of, while it's not traditional profit, it's operating to earn money and to support the community, but they are giving their earnings to another company. So they are not directly supporting the indigent in the community. I don't think that there's any reason to change the class code or the liability status in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. Mr. Story, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Just to be very clear, this is indeed a registered charity. They are a registered charity whose sole dominant purpose, they exist to provide relief to the sick and indigent. I don't know that is in dispute. So that is why we are requesting that this property be recognized as one that is indeed providing assistance to the indigent. The notion that it's a store or that there's some profit motivation here is absolutely false. This property, once again, it exists to raise funds for the larger goals, both global and local, of the MCC. And so we do respectfully submit that the class code ought to be changed to reflect that it does indeed satisfy the conditions of section 23.1. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Okay, thank you. Ms. Martins, we will go back to your brief and start with your information on the 2023 realty assessment valuation, please.
Okay. The use of this building is a store. There are 2 buildings with 3 premises. It has 2 stories. Part of it has 1 story, part of it has 2 stories. Actual year built ranges from 1950 to 1988. The wall height is 11 feet. The land area is 8,337 square feet, and the plan area is 6,197 square feet. If we look on page 3, we have comparable rents from $6.55 to $10 a square foot. On page 4, we have our income workup. We do have 3 premises. The 1,200 square feet, the $14.87 rent is for the back area, for the workshop area. The $4.38 is for the storefront. And the $3.69 is for the second floor. So in total, we have 10,709 square feet with a potential rent of $56,380. We've applied a 6% vacancy on this one and expenses at 3% with a $7 shortfall. That gives us an NOI of $46,909. We've applied a 9.45% capitalization rate on this one, giving us the $496,392 for the capitalized value, which rounds to $496,000. We look down. We do have an income and expense report, but as this is fully owner occupied, there's no rent, there's just expenses on there. And if we go down further, there are some pictures. There's the front of the store, and then you can see an overhead picture that shows the property and how much of the property is taken up by the building. And then at the very bottom, there is a map of where this is located, right near the corner of Notre Dame and Keewatin Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. Mr. Story, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
Oh, just a few. I'll be very quick though, because we're not terribly far apart on
Okay.
value. So, Ms. Martins, this is presumably all modeled. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay, and there's no submission regarding expenses, I'm guessing. Is that correct? In terms of the non-recoverables? You don't have a submission regarding the non-recoverables, is that correct?
No.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Mr. Boreski, any questions of the assessor?
You're on mute, Mark.
Pardon me, I muted myself. I'm confused about the building. The 1,200 square feet of standard finish.
Yes.
Is that not the front of the store on the main floor where the furniture is displayed?
No, it isn't. I have notes from the last hearing. I have notes from a coworker. And it was shown that the larger area, the valuation was intended to be reduced for the larger space.
So you're saying that where the furniture is displayed to be sold is actually typified as storage / mezzanine?
Yes. That was in order to get the values close to that. That was the code that we put it in to our system in order to get our system to generate values that were down to this level. So it's not considered standard showroom space, because from previous decisions, so that it's not, if we had standard finish for this, then the jump in value would be incredible over the previous decision. Whereas if it's adjusted this way, our system will generate values that are in a line and don't give us gigantic leaps in values, so that the valuation is out of control every time.
Well, I'm not following that, I gotta say.
Okay, if we put it as standard finish, the value would be
sorry, let me finish.
Okay.
Why are you trying to drive the rent down
to reflect previous board decisions?
Why are you doing that?
Because it has been, we're reflecting what a previous board decision is, so that we don't come in here. If it was at $14 a square foot for that large space, the jump in value would have been really unreasonable. If the board is coming to us and we have decisions saying that this is the value that it should be, and we're trying to get it so that it's increasing at a reasonable rate to reflect actual, like we've been speaking about this, it's not a Lululemon, it's not it's not a Safeway, it's not any of the regular, it's not a regular storefront, it's a storefront that has secondhand furniture in it. And
any potential buyer only be someone who is going to operate it as a secondhand furniture store?
No, absolutely not.
And how is this to be valued then? Is it valued willing buyer, willing seller on the open market?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You referenced board orders. Are you talking about municipal board or board revision?
Board revision.
Well,
And
that's all
we're trying to carry forward in a reasonable fashion so that we don't come up with values that are doubling or tripling in value from previous board decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No questions of the assessor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin, just to clarify, so the 9,500 square feet of storage area has been overridden manually?
No.
No?
None of this has been overridden manually.
Oh,
we
okay.
switched,
Okay.
we
No, that's
switched,
okay. Thank
we
you.
switched it to the different types so that we wouldn't have to override it manually, so that
Okay,
we could
fair
come
enough.
to the board and say, no, this is model derived.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's my only question. Thank you very much. Mr. Story, just bear with us 1 second while we pull up your brief, please. Mr. Story, when you're ready, please, 16 Kuwaitan Street.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Okay, so we've established the nature of the property. We have, of course, the MCC Thrift, zoned and occupied by the charity, and of course, they sell used and donated furniture for the benefit of their donees. It's a two-story building. It's on the west side of Kuwaitan. It's directly north of William Avenue. It was constructed in 1950. The city is suggesting an effective age of 1975. The overall leasable area is 10,709 square feet over 2 floors. I have visited this property a number of times. It would be, obviously I appreciate what the assessor is saying. The rental rate typically on this market would be considered much lower than typical retail. Just based on the interior, it is we'll call it a low degree of finish to be certain. Okay, it's zone C2 commercial. I note that it doesn't have any parking. If you're familiar with this area, all of the parking for this property is located behind the Brooklands Hotel. Which is not the greatest scenario, but that is simply that's just the reality of this property. I won't spend a great deal of time on the rents because we're very close. The city is suggesting 52,997. We're at, sorry, 56,380. We're at 56,293. So we're very, very close, and we've denoted this with $8 per square foot to the 1,200 square feet, $650 for the 4,997, and $315 to that lower quality space on the second floor, 4,512. Vacancy and collection loss, we both applied 6%. Shortfall is also not in dispute. Now, as you all know, we do continue to apply an allowance of 7% of effective gross income in our valuation of the subject. Of course, it's based on a standard allowance of 2% as a structural reserve and 5% as a stabilized allowance for non-recoverables. You've all been provided our non-recoverable study. Ultimately, we've used a 9.5 cap rate. That's obviously very close to the assessor as well. So value is, we're reasonably close. We're suggesting 471,000 based on those inputs. And so I think I'll leave it there. So we do respectfully submit, in addition to our adjustment to the class code based on our previous discussion, that the value not exceed 471,000. Of course, very close to the assessment. And those are my comments. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Story. Ms. Martin, any questions of the applicant?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Robert, any questions of the applicant?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mark, any questions of the applicant?
Yes. Where do I find your rent comparables?
I do not have rent comparables here. I did not include rent comps. The rent is not, we've not typically disputed the rent, so I haven't provided a rent study.
Where did these rents come from?
This is just based on the history of the property, our records, and that's how we've determined it when we worked it up. We again, we don't, we're not really arguing the rent. We think the application of the rents by the city is are typically fine, and I will suggest that I guess the rents that we've applied here are commensurate with what we've applied in the past. So, but we're not really arguing the rents, I suppose. In the grand scheme of things, we're very, very close.
In your view, these rents are equitable with respect to other properties in the city of Winnipeg?
Well, it's an interesting property, but yes, I think in terms of in this general stretch with some of these issues facing this property, there's a huge problem with parking, as I mentioned. This would fall on the lower end, and I think both the assessment department and we have adequately captured that. So yes, I think it is equitable.
That's all my questions.
Thank you, Mark. And I have no questions for you, Mr. Story. Excuse me. Does either party require a summary regarding the realty valuation side, as we've already done the classification side? Ms.
No,
Martin?
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Story?
No, I think we're okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. And my understanding, Mr. Story, is that you're only representing this property and you will be leaving now?
That is correct. I'm off, so enjoy the balance of your night, everyone, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, that concludes 16 Keewatin Street. And Mr. Story will say goodnight to you and bring in the next applicant, please, Jaswinder.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Jaswinder, can you please swear in Mr. Navarro, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Mr. Navarro, please state your full name. Mr. Navarro, please state your full name.
Marcelo Navarro.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaswinder. Next item on the docket is item number 2, file 22-2528. Address is 73 Hargrave Street, and we're dealing with a 2023 realty assessment appeal. And I believe there's a preliminary issue here, Ms. Martins, for a request for non-cooperation and switching of onus.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. I should have taken that off
Okay.
because I do have the income and expense mailer attached at the end.
Okay. So you're withdrawing that request
Yes,
for
please.
non-cooperation for the record? Okay. Thank you. And could I ask if either party has rebuttals involved in this particular property? Ms. Martins, no?
No.
Mr. Navarro?
Yes, I
You
do.
will have to Ms. Martin. Okay, thank you.
But Mr. Chair, it was specific to the penalty request.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay. So will since she's withdrawn that, will you also withdraw that exhibit? Okay.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you. Can you note that, please, Jaswinder?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Martins, when you're ready, 73 Hargrave Street.
This is file number 22-2528. The roll number is 12092563000 73 Hargrave Street. For the roll year of 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, the assessed value is $517,000. This is a store. There's one building with 4 premises, and we have 2 stories on that. The effective year built is 1950 with a wall height of 10 feet. We have land area of 6,056 square feet and a plan area of 1,548 square feet. So if we go down to page 4, we can look at the income workup. We have 4 premises, which total 3,569 square feet with a potential rent of 48,622 square feet. I'm sorry, $48,622. We have vacancy at 18% for this property and expenses at 3% with a shortfall of $7 per square foot, which gives us an NOI of $34,177. We've applied a capitalization rate of 7.25%, giving us a rounded value of $471,000. That does not match our value. Sorry, I don't know why this does not match the value. Further down, we have the income and expense report, and we have, on the very last page, we have the pictures of the subject property. We've got a street view, an overhead view, and a map showing that this is on Hargrave Street, sorry, between Hargrave Place and Broadway, 1 street over from Donald. I would like to make a recommendation that we go to the 471,000 that is in my workup.
Ms. Martins, did you mention your cap rate? I'm sorry, I was writing here and I just.
Yeah, it's there. It's the cap rate is 7.25%. It's there
Okay.
on page 4.
Thank you.
Mhm.
NOI 34177. Okay. Mr. Navarro, any questions of the assessor? She's made a verbal recommendation to revise the current roll value at 517,000 down to her calculated value of 471,000. Any questions of the assessor's evidence?
No questions, Mr. Chair, and I am fine with that change.
Okay. You're in agreement with the verbal recommendation at $471,000?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Mark, any questions of the assessor?
Sorry,
Any questions of the assessor? Or any comments?
not given that there is agreement on the value, no.
Okay, thank you. Robert, any questions or comments?
No, the question I had is confirmed with 471,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I have no questions of the assessor either. Mr. Navarro, in our decisions, we require a summary of what you presented. So for the record, can you please state when we go to your brief what you were presenting in the way of evidence? And then it's noted that you would accept the recommendation, but just for the record.
Yes. So, Mr. Chair, we were requesting an indicative market value of 361,527, rounded to 362,000. That is based on a $10.70 for the market rent, 7% vacancy, $7 shortfall, non-recoverables of 7%, and an 8% cap rate. And again, that is 362,000.
Okay.
And we're, as I mentioned, we're fine with the recommendation that the assessor has made.
Okay. So to summarize, you provided an income and expense statement to ask for reduction in assessment, but agree with the verbal recommendation presented by the assessor.
We do.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Any requirements for summary, Ms. Martins?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Navarro?
No need for summary. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes 73 Hargrave Street. Next item on the docket is item number 3, file number 22-1287. Address is 340 Portage Avenue. And we're dealing with a 2023 Realty Assessment Appeal. Ms. Martins, let us pull up your brief, please. And Ms. Martins, when you are ready, please, 340 Portage Avenue.
Thank you. This is file number 22-1287. Roll number 12093482000. This is 340 Portage Avenue for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $684,000. We have one building with one premise. It was built in 1920, but it has effective years built 1931 to 1955. The wall height is 19 feet. It is zoned for multiple use. The land area is 2,821 square feet with a plan area of 2,665 square feet. If we go to page 4, we have our income workup. We have one premise at standard finish for C2 for 3,180 square feet With a rent of $17.33, we have a potential rent of $55,109. We've applied a 6% vacancy, 3% for expenses, $7 per square foot for shortfall, giving us an NOI of $48,912. We've then applied a capitalization rate of 7.15, giving us the rounded value of $684,000. If we go to the last page, we do have pictures of this. We have a street view and an overhead view, and then the map showing the location on Portage Avenue between Hargrave and Carleton. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. Mr. Navarro, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
Yes. All the parameters are taken from the model. There's been no adjustments to this at all.
Correct.
Okay. And in terms of your comparables here, you've taken from Marion, Portage Avenue, a little bit further out, Stafford, Roblin, Isabel. Did you look more specifically at closer to this area?
I looked specifically at properties that were on the smaller side. I believe I was looking at, I might be mistaken, but I thought I was looking at single tenant buildings or single tenant properties. And I was looking at older properties. So nothing newer than, we've got the one that's 1980 and ones that had similar rents. I was looking at what is available in that rental range.
Okay, and have you inspected this property at any time in the past?
No, I have not.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with this section of Portage Avenue?
I walk through it a fair amount.
Okay. And your interpretation is that it is comparable to the other comparable rents that you've looked at?
It's hard to say because some stretches of Isabel would definitely be comparable to this, and
Right.
some portions of it does have some aspects that are similar. I don't know. That's not really answering your question. Yes and no.
Okay. And you are aware that this is attached as a walkway? So, sorry, there is a gross lease for a walkway here as well.
I noticed that in the I&E that there was
Okay.
a walkway tenant, but is it vacant at the moment? I wasn't sure if that was part of the walkway that goes from the bay.
I believe it is part of the walkway.
Okay.
So, were you aware of that walkway?
I don't think that we have it valued, but
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Those
not
are-
familiar enough with those properties to see how we valued it here compared to how we've done it in other properties.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Excuse me. Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No questions of the assessor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, any questions of the assessor?
Yeah, just for starters, just a clarification on premise. How is it that you use that term? Is that equated to the area occupied by a business, like in the business assessment premise? Or
Yes.
is this a structure?
No, when we're looking at the premise ID and on page 4, and we've got a description of what the premise is, like the tenant class for the premise, that's what we do use for the BA, so that
Okay.
they're they work together for
The
BA
same,
and,
yeah, the same premise ID is used on the BA side as you show here. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Got it. Thanks. Your rent comparables.
Mhm.
Gosh, this looks rather like a very simple structure in a very nice location. You're saying that your primary purpose in finding comparables was to find similar structures and obviously not necessarily same location. Is that correct?
Yes, I was just looking for things that, like, if you were looking for something that was that size, what are properties that are, if you had a business and that's what you needed for your business, where else could you possibly put your business for a comparable rent?
Okay. And do people who would occupy that location, do they look for a place anywhere in the city as long as it's got that size and kind of building? Or are they looking for that location?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Is there more value in the land there than there is in the building?
No, if there was more value in the land, then the land value would override.
Sorry, what does that mean?
If the land was more valuable than the building, than the income stream, then we would have to go and switch it back to the income stream value. So no.
Okay, so you're using a rent of 1733. Is that typical in the downtown area, regardless of whether it's a small building, a big building? Is that a typical rent?
It's what was generated by our system. So yes.
Okay. All right, that's all my questions.
Thank you, Mark. Ms. Martins, I'm looking at the front of the property, page 11. The subject, so that this is actually only one story, is that correct? That's a false facade to make it look taller. Would that be accurate?
Actually, if we listen to what Mr. Navarro was saying, I believe that that's where the walkway would go through.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out from Mr. Navarro.
Yeah. I
Okay.
haven't been inside there.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, thank you. Okay. That is my only question, Mr. Navarro. We'll get to your brief for 340 Portage Avenue. When you are ready, Mr. Navarro.
Okay. Okay, this is 340 Portage Avenue. I'll ask you to flip to page 6. And there you can see an outside picture and an overhead picture of the property and its general location. I believe this is located next to I'm pretty sure that is the Newport building. So this is 340 Portage Avenue. The building was constructed in 1920 and has an effective age of 1955, leasable area of 3180. We have a lease on the property for the walkway. And as I'm led to understand, this is a walkway lease. So we just added it as the gross value. We've put in a net $9 rent on the 3180 square feet. We have a few comparables there on page 11. 155 Carlton, 3111 Portage Avenue is way out on Portage Avenue, so I don't know how comparable it is. 180 King Street is, I believe, the Mandarin building in Chinatown. 90 Gary Street is in the downtown. 346 Cumberland is also north of Portage Avenue. 646 Portage Avenue is a little bit further out on Portage Avenue. However, it is a small store, just like this one. That lease went from May 16th to April 21, so conceivably you could see some type of small increase on the rent. However, I think we've covered that by the addition of that walkway lease. So we're at $13.90 per square foot, or 3181 square feet. We have a vacancy allowance on there of 6%, and that is market driven, obviously, since there is no actual vacancy here. Shortfall rate of $7 per square foot. And in terms of the capitalization rate, we've gone with a 7.5 capitalization rate. So we have 2 additional documents that we've submitted. That is our non-recoverable expense study and our capitalization rate study for retail properties. So how we're deriving the capitalization rate of 7.50, well, we're on the lower side of the quality class. So if you can turn to page 12, you can see our capitalization rate chart, which is coming straight out of our retail capitalization rate study. And so what we're effectively saying is that this is on the lower end of the quality scale for retail properties. And you know, there's something to be said about the covenants here. I mean, you're looking at a month-to-month lease that's been there for quite a long time. You know, there are no fixed leases here, so I'm not sure that this is you know, the best investment grade property. Again, I believe that this is on the lower end of the retail quality scale, so I've given it a 7.50 capitalization rate. Just to summarize, we are looking for a valuation of $498,000. And in our appendix, all we've done is included the income and expenses that were submitted by the owner. So I am open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Ms. Martins, any questions of the applicant's evidence presented?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Mark, any questions of the applicant?
Yes. So this is a 1-story building, but there's a lease for the walkway. Now that's an internal walkway on the 2nd floor, is it? Isn't that right?
I would have to say so. I've been through the Newport building, and I'm guessing that it goes through this building. I haven't actually seen it. I apologize. I didn't have time to inspect this building, but yes, I would assume that somewhere on the upper end of the building, there is a walkway cutting through it, through the Newport building, and then going, I guess, westward.
Is our only conclusion that, given it's 1-story, it's 1-story with very high walls. Consequently, there can be a lease on the 2nd floor. What amounts to a 2nd floor?
I think so. Yes. I think it is only 1 square foot. So I believe
1 square foot.
Yes, we've only noted it as 1 square foot. And I believe there are other cases of walkways along the walkway in downtown Winnipeg, where you will also see just 1 square feet. It's not really representative. I think they're just paying a flat rate for that walkway space.
Does this premise have access directly to the walkway?
I couldn't answer that, sir. No.
Looking at your rents, you've got rent comparables averaging $10.72, median $10.25. Net, you're saying, is $13.90. So I'm not understanding how we go from the $10 to the $13.
Well, I think if you look at the calculation itself, it's because the addition of that income from that lease on the walkway. So my option was to exclude it or to include it. I chose to include it. It certainly spike the rent upward because we would have been looking at a rent of around $9 per square foot, which I would have felt very comfortable with. However, I would have felt uncomfortable excluding something that should have been included.
And so you would put this in as other revenue.
Yeah,
you
I could have
used a rental rate that reflects it.
Exactly. I could have put it in as additional revenue. It still would have gone through that same process of being capitalized at a certain cap rate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Robert, any questions of the applicant?
No questions of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro. Here we are. Okay. So you've converted that lease of the Skywalk into a square footage total potential rent, and okay, converted square footage. Okay, I see what you're doing there. Okay, I think that's all. No, my second question was regarding your comparables. In your opinion, the location of the subject property would it be superior or inferior to the comparables, the 6 that you provided? Any opinion on that?
So I have my own opinions of downtown Winnipeg, and especially Portage Avenue. I am not a big proponent of saying that is a good area. Sorry, a lot of those shops have been there for decades, and they are not the best places. I'll leave that argument at that. I tend to think that it would be on the lower end of the scale if we were looking at comparable rents. It's certainly not comparable to better retail rents that are outside of the downtown, or I would say even outside of, because what I'm saying is essentially Portage Avenue is its own little predicament. And I don't think things are going too well for this area and haven't been for quite a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's my only questions. Ms. Martins, any requirement for summary for the subject property?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, any requirement for summary?
No, Mr. Chair, I'm good.
Thank you. Thank you to both. That concludes 340 Portage Avenue. Next item on the docket is number 4, file number 22-997. Address is 424 Portage Avenue. And we're dealing with a 2023 Realty Assessment Appeal. And Ms. Martins, please bear with us 1 second while we pull up your brief. Ms. Martins, when you're ready, please, 425 Portage Avenue.
Thank you. This is file number 22-997, roll number 12093684000. 424 Portage Avenue for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $941,000. There's one building with 2 premises, and it is consists of 3 stories. The actual year built matches the effective year built, so 1930. We have a 16-foot wall height. The land area is 2,813 square feet. The plan area is 2,408 square feet. And if we go to page 4, we have the income workup. We see the 2 premises, and we have the total leasable area at 7,224 square feet with a total potential rent of $105,182. To that, we've applied a 20% vacancy loss, 3% for expenses, and a $7 shortfall. giving us a net operating income of $71,508. To that, we've applied a 7.6% capitalization rate, giving us a rounded $941,000. We go all the way down, we see that we do have income and expense information for this property. And if we go down to the bottom, I think it's page 10, we have a picture. It's difficult to make out, but there's the street view, and then there's the overhead view, and we can see the map as well, showing that this is between Vaughan and Kennedy. And it's the little building that's squished tightly in between the other two. You see which one that is? I believe it's the tall one that's beside the bridal salon. And that's everything for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. Mr. Navarro, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
Yes. Again, this was all model driven.
Yes, it was.
Okay. And you're
Actually, I'm sorry, there was the, the 20% vacancy, that would be an override.
okay. Okay. And you looked at the historic status of this building being an older building as well?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And your rent comparables are from St. Boniface and 120 Donald Street. That's correct?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Martin, I'm just a little confused here because I did find a document and I don't know who supplied this document. And I don't think this was from our side, but it was a recommendation. So I'm just trying to figure out who sent this, because yes, it was included in our documents, so I'm not sure who actually sent this. If it wasn't you, then I will leave it aside and go on with my, yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Okay. So I
Okay.
received, I guess from the clerk's office, an email with the briefs, and it had this one-page recommendation included. So I don't know if it came from your side or my side. If it didn't come from you, then it's irrelevant. So we can just forget about that.
Perhaps when we review your information, you can analyze it further, Mr. Navarro. How's that?
Would we be able to take a brief recess, and Mr. Navarro and I could discuss it?
Of course, yes. Yeah, okay.
Would that be okay?
And you've got access to the information that Mr. Navarro is referring to. Is that right?
I have no idea.
Okay, so yeah. Okay, we'll recess for 10 minutes, please. Thank you, Jaswinder. I'll now call the hearing back to order. Excuse me. Mr. Navarro, Ms. Martins, pardon me. Did you have a chance to figure out what's going on here with that recommendation?
Yes, we did. We have figured out a value that we can agree on.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So,
So Ms. Martin, you had made your presentation.
mhm.
Would you like to explain what you've decided with Mr. Navarro, please?
Okay, so we will use a rent of $12.67 per square foot, giving $91,528 with a vacancy of 20%, a shortfall of $7. We're using the 3% for the expenses, giving us an NOI of $60,912. then applied a 8% capitalization rate for a final value of $761,402, which will round to 761,000.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Navarro, any comments?
Nope. I'm good with it.
You're in agreement with the recommendation at $761,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So, Mr. Navarro, you have no questions. Mr. Robert, any questions of the assessor at this time?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, any questions of the assessor?
No questions.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. Mr. Navarro, for the record, can you please explain what was submitted in your brief for our final details on this hearing?
Yes, absolutely. So I had a rent of 91,504, a vacancy allowance of 20%, giving me an effective market of 73,203, 7% or $7 shortfall, 5% non-recoverables. The allowances in total, the expense allowances were 15,238, net operating income of 57,965, capitalized at 8%. That brought me to 724,567, or 725,000 rounded.
Okay. But you're in agreement with the assessor at $761,000. But in summary, you've submitted a brief with an income and expense statements asking for a reduction from the original assessment.
Correct, and I am in agreement with the recommendation that the assessor has made.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Any requirement for summary, Ms. Martins?
No, thank you very much.
Mr. Navarro?
None.
Okay, thank you. That concludes, 424 Portage Avenue. That was item number 4. Next item on the docket is item number 5, file number 22-3228. Address is 340 Donald Street. And
this one is another case where I did not delete that off of the first page.
So we did have a request for non-cooperation to start with, and we're dealing with a 2023 Realty Assessment Appeal. Ms. Martins, you're withdrawing that request for non-cooperation?
Yes, please. I would like to withdraw that.
And Mr. Navarro, did you have a rebuttal or something regarding that?
I did, but if the assessor is withdrawing the request, then I don't see a need to present.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're just dealing with a 2023 Realty Assessment Appeal on 340 Donald Street. And Ms. Martins, allow us to pull up the brief, please.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ms. Martins, 340 Donald Street, please.
This is file number 22-3228, roll number 13052810000, 340 Donald Street, for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $788,000. This is a store. It is one building with 4 premises, 2 stories. It was built in 1925, but has an effective year built at 1950. The land area is 6,045 square feet, and the plan area is 6,050 square feet. If we go to page 4, we have our income workup. On this, you'll note that we do have rent on the basement at $1.71 a square foot. And we've got 3 different rents for the different premises. That gives us a potential rent of $122,977. But to that, we have applied a 25% vacancy expense. So that gives us an effective gross income of $92,233. To that, we've applied 3% for expenses and $7 per square foot for shortfall, giving us an NOI of $63,004. We've used an 8% capitalization rate, giving us $787,550, which rounds to $788,000. Going down to the very bottom, we see a street view and an overhead view and a map view. This is at the corner of Donald and Ellis. And it does look very vacant. That's why we've given it the 25% vacancy. And I think that's everything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. Mr. Navarro, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
I don't think so. I think this one is fairly straightforward. So thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No questions of the assessor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, any questions of the assessor?
Yeah, I'd like a little bit better understanding of the building. The plan area is 6,050. The basement is 5136. The third premise listed here is 5,437 square feet. So I take it that the basement is not quite a full basement. Is that correct?
I would assume so. And the 5,437 square feet, I'm assuming since it's got the higher rental amount, that is the main floor.
Main floor, yeah.
And then the other 2 premises would be the second floor. That's why they've got a slightly reduced rent.
Okay. And when you add up those 2 second floor ones, they're not quite the same as the main floor. You know what?
No, I have not been in the building, but we would be taking away space for the staircase and any hallway that's in there.
Okay. And is all 3 levels, are they all vacant at this point?
Yes.
And how long have they been vacant?
Sorry, I don't know how long it's been vacant. I didn't look deeply into the INE. I'm not sure if it says on there.
Okay.
Oh, it says we have the different on page 9. It does show the start date of vacancies. 1 unit started, it looks like 2010. And then 1 2011, 1 2012, and 1 2015.
Oh my. So what is the theory then of applying 25% as opposed to 100%?
Well, if we put 100% vacancy, then it would take it into the negatives. So we have to do it on a curve, essentially, because even if a building is 100% vacant, it's not worth a negative value.
Right. Why is the 25% settled on?
For the most part, that's usually what we do as the maximum.
But why? You know?
I'm not sure on the exact math of it, but because we do have to come up with a value that is that still attributes value to the property, because the building does have value, while still giving an understanding that there is a high vacancy, so there is a struggle with getting income on that.
Right. You're not aware of any significant problems as a result of it being vacant? Has it deteriorated substantially, or?
Nothing that has come to my attention.
Okay. All right. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Martin's on page 4. Can you give me the blended rate of the potential rent, please?
If I can find a calculator, just one moment.
Okay.
The blended rate is $8.13. But once again, since there's such a disparity with the substandard basement, I
Okay.
would caution about that because we don't want to apply $8 per square foot on any basement space.
No. Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. And no, that's all my questions. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Navarro, let me pull up your brief, please, before we start. Mr. Navarro, 340 Donald Street, when you're ready, please.
Okay, 340 Donald Street on page 2, you can see the summary. You'll see that we have 15,121 square feet. That is actually taken from the city assessment records. If you turn to page 7, you can see that there is a leasable area of 12,000 square feet. That is our interpretation of this space. However, as it says there, with some bare unleasable basement space. So Ashley, we'll get to this in just a few seconds, but the property has been vacant since 2012. And there has been no lack of marketing. I believe you can just look at the last page when you have time. You'll see that the property has been actively marketed. So we are looking at 9988 square feet. That matches the INE, and that matches the INEs going back quite a few years. So, so obviously there is a discrepancy here. So we've used a rent of $9.01 for 90,000, and you can see our comparables there. Like I again, with that property on Main Street, I don't know what to tell you about this property. It has been vacant for a long time. It could be the location. It could be the lack of functionality in the building itself. But obviously there is something contributing to this building being vacant for so long. We can't really pinpoint it, but there are some buildings like that in the downtown which have been vacant for a long time. I believe the old Masonic Temple is one of the examples of close by that has, you know, always had an issue being rented. So again, we go with 90,000, 25% vacancy, just to get into the conversation that Mr. Boreski had with the assessor regarding that. I think if you go beyond 25% at that point, you're going to be decreasing the value so low that the office use ceases to be the highest and best use. So we would be looking at a land value at that point as well. And at $532,894, we are coming close to a land value probably at this point. So again, we've gone with 90,000 as our income based on 901, 25% vacancy, $7 per square foot shortfall allowance, and a capitalization rate of 850. Now that is way beyond our scale for the most part, but this is one of those buildings where, you know, you're taking a $99,000 hit every year consecutively since 2012. So it's losing a lot of money. You know, whether the office building is protected, I didn't check to see whether it's on the protected status list. but I would question whether the office use is still the highest and best use for this property. However, we are going with a value of 533,000 rounded. So I am open for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Ms. Martins, any questions of the applicant?
Is the difference in our leasable area just the basement space, or is it a bigger difference than that? Did you calculate that?
I didn't. So we've gone with what we've seen in the income and expense mailers for, I believe this has been going on for quite a few years, so I don't know what the discrepancy is. So I can't really answer that.
Yeah, okay. Just so that we can have an accurate record of what this is. So it is just the difference between the basement.
Yeah,
which
it
reasonable.
appears so. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
That's all, Ms. Martins? Yes?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Robert, any questions of the applicant?
No questions of the applicant.
Thank you. Mark, any questions of the applicant?
No, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Navarro, have you inspected this property at all?
Not in its current incarnation. I have been it in the past.
Yeah. Do you remember there being a basement area?
I can't say that I do, but I do believe there is a basement.
Yeah, okay.
If you just hold on for a second, I may have a better description of the of that space actually.
Okay.
Yeah, the basement is 2408 square feet. That is actually from city records, not from coming from us.
Okay. And yet, okay. So let me do a quick calculation here. Maybe I'm going to ask Ms. Martins, you got any record of the BA measurements on this property or anything like that?
I don't have anything in the to calculate for the basement, so I'm having trouble getting into our system. So I don't have any better information about the basement space, but being
Okay.
a substandard basement on a building with this level of vacancy, we do have to give it something, but we should probably correct the areas on it. But it's really tough if it's a vacant building. So.
Oh, okay. So my calculation is that with what Mr. Navarro has presented for 2408 from city records, I'm not sure where that was from, comes to 12,396 as opposed to Ms. Martin using 15,121 square feet.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I actually just looked up the business assessment and there's nothing there. That makes sense since it's been vacant for quite a while. So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, right. Okay. But Mr. Navarro, you're using 9988 and saying there's no value and that extra 2,400 square feet approximately. Would that be fair?
that would be fair to say, yes.
Yeah, okay. And your cap rate at 8.5%, you accepted the city vacancy at I believe 25%. Could I ask where you or how you reconcile that cap rate of 8.5?
Well, the capitalization rate report that we issue generally notes the properties that are performing within a typical market scenario. This is not your typical market scenario.
No.
So when you see a property that's been vacant since 2012, that's already more than a decade. Again, I would go back to the comment that I made regarding the highest and best use. I have my reservations about office use being the highest and best use for this property at this point.
Okay. And you did make a comment about the active leasing attempts on the property. Did you highlight
Yes.
that with us, or would you
Yeah,
mind?
it's on the very last page of the report, actually.
Okay. Would you mind going through that, please?
Yep. So they were asking for 1995 net. Available space was 6,000 square feet. So they were just looking to lease a portion of the building, and additional rent of $6.50. I think this was wishful thinking
Okay.
on part of the property listing agency at that time.
Okay. So they were, I'm not sure what year this was. This isn't post-reference, would that be fair?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
This would have come from either the 2020 or the most current one. So
Yeah.
it would have been.
And they were, it looks like probably they were only trying to lease the main floor, that corner.
Yeah.
Possibly with all that window exposure and everything. Would that be accurate?
Exactly. So that's what used to be, I believe, the discreet boutique at one time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And any Mr. Boreski asked you any comments on the condition of the property, how it's being maintained when being vacant 10 years, or any problem?
I mean, I would no. I mean, at this point, it would just be speculation on my part. But any building that is vacant for 10 years, would have issues at this point. And it's just a loss scenario for them. So I doubt that they are putting very much money into this building.
Yeah, I'm looking at the INE submitted by you, and it's only $2,200 in heat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you know if it's still being heated, or?
Well, I would say that it would have to be heated. Otherwise, you would have the possibility of pipes bursting. But as you can see, their insurance is probably a reflection of what's going on right now, because $15,295 is quite a steep insurance bill for an empty building, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's vacant, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for that information. Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if I ask one more question?
Go ahead, Mark. Yeah.
What is the use of the building just to the west? There's a small parking lot, some trees, and a building there.
This is coming from the pictures that I submitted.
No, yours doesn't show it. This is actually looking at the pictures in the city's brief.
Okay, let me just have a quick look at that.
But if you're more familiar with it.
Isn't that the LC?
Yeah, that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else, Mark?
Nope, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Ms. Martins, any requirement for summary?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro?
I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes 340 Donald Street. Next item on the docket is item number 6, file number 22-2029. Address is 115 Maryland, dealing with a 2023 realty assessment. And Ms. Martins, again, we show a non-cooperation request. Any comments?
Again, I'd like to withdraw that.
Okay, so non-cooperation withdrawn. Thank you. And Mr. Navarro, did you have rebuttal to that non-cooperation request in this brief?
I did, but if it's being withdrawn, then I will not present.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're dealing 115 Maryland Street. Ms. Martins, let me pull up your brief, please. Okay, Ms. Martins, when you're ready, please. 115 Maryland.
This is file number 22-2029. Roll number 12090379100. The address is 115 Maryland Street for the roll year of 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $846,000. This is one building with one premise, and it's one story. The actual year built was 1926. The effective year built is 1934. We have a land area of 20,779 square feet with a plan area of 6,200 square feet. If we go down on this one, if we scroll down to the very last page first. We see that this is the food fair, and it's at the corner of Maryland and Westminster.
Okay.
And if you look on the picture that shows the overhead view with the property line, you see that it is the store, which is right on the corner, and then it also has a parking lot for the customers. So if we go up to page 4, please. We have 6,200 square feet with $11.69 rent, which gives us a potential rental income of $72,478. We've applied 6% for the vacancy, which gives $68,129. We've applied 3% for expenses and $7 per square foot for shortfall, which gives an NOI of $63,481. To that, we've applied a cap rate of 7.85%, which gives us a value of $808,675, which rounds to $809,000. And that is everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. Does Mr. Navarro, any questions as the assessor's evidence presented?
No, not at the moment. I'm good with what she's done here. I would ask if we could have just a short 2-minute break or something like that, if possible.
You'd like to recess for a couple of minutes to...
Just a couple of minutes, yeah, just to discuss this.
Okay, with the assessor, is that correct?
Yeah, that's
okay.
correct.
Jaswinder, can we take a recess for 5 minutes, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Jaswinder. I'll now call the meeting back to order. Mr. Navarro, Ms. Martins, any comments make to the board?
Yes. We would like to use my NOI at $63,481
Okay.
and apply an 8.25% cap rate to that.
Okay.
And that gets us to a value of $769,467, I believe, which rounds to $769.
Okay.
Marcello, that's right?
Yeah, I have 769,466, but
$1
rounded to 70.
difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Perfect.
So the recommendation is to revise the assessment to $769,000 based on the assessor's cap rate, NOI presented, and a revised cap rate of 8.25%. Is that right, Ms. Martins?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Navarro, you are in agreement?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am.
Okay. Mark, any questions of the assessor?
None.
Thank you. Robert, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions either, but Mr. Navarro, for our decision making, I'm just going to summarize here for you and just please agree with me. You presented in your brief on income and expense statement that requested a reduction in assessment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any requirement for summary? I believe not.
Nope, not on my part.
Thank you. Ms. Martins, you're good. Okay,
Absolutely, thank you.
thank you. And last item on the docket is item number 7, file number 22-1347. Address is 164 Fort Street.
On this one, I would also like to withdraw the non-cooperation, please.
Okay. Non-cooperation request withdrawn. Mr. Navarro, did you have a document to rebut that?
I did, Mr. Chair, but since it's being withdrawn, there's no need to go over it.
Thank you, Mr. Navarro. Address is 164 Port Street. We're dealing with a 2023 realty assessment appeal. And Ms. Martins, bear with us 1 second, please. One 164 Fort Street. Ms. Martins, when you're ready, please.
File number 22-1347. And this is roll number 12093086000 for roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. The assessed value is $371,000. And page 4 shows 2,000 square feet. We've got a potential rent of $29,020. Vacancy loss at 6%, expenses at 3%, shortfall at $7 per square foot, giving us an NOI of $25,621. We have a cap rate at 6.9, which gives us our $371,000. And that is everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martins. Mr. Navarro, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
I do not have any questions, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. Mr. Boreski, any questions of the assessor?
I'm looking at the rent comparables. Again, there are a variety of locations. So is the selection of these comparables, again, because they're similar buildings?
They were similar area, older buildings, similar rent, just to look at what you can get for the amount of rent, instead of looking just what's next door and how much, because it's difficult to find properties that are similar like that, that we have good rents on. So
are you saying, oh, go ahead.
Instead, I worked it the other way. I found properties that had similar rents and similar effective year built, and then looked at what else we could find for that amount, because that's comparable that way. These aren't properties that were used to generate the rent. This was just working backwards to give an example of what is out there for that amount of money.
Somehow it strikes me as not really defending what the rent is. So do you know anything much about these properties? Like what kind of structure, what they're being used for?
No, I didn't have a chance to look into all of it, because with the number of appeals that we're doing, I didn't have an opportunity to go in-depth search on all of the rental comparables.
All right, that's all my questions.
Thank you, Mark. Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No questions of the assessor at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martins, I'm looking at page 13, the aerial view. So this is a freestanding building, I believe.
Yes.
And when I look at the aerial view, there's a split roof system with higher, I guess, wall height at the, let's say, the back 50% of the building.
Yes.
Is this is this all retail all the way through? Would you know, or?
I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah. And the 2,000 square feet represents the total building area, or is that just, sorry, I'm looking at the plan area here.
Yeah, because the plan area is 2,000 square feet and with the land area of
Yeah,
3,000. So
Yeah.
that looks right.
okay. Thank you. And can you explain why there's an age variant to 1995? Any information on that?
Nope, I did not have any information on that.
Okay. That would impact the cap rate used. Would that be correct? Part of the,
Yes, it would. Yeah.
part of the, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Mr. Navarro, did I ask you if you had questions? I'm sorry.
I believe I said I didn't have any
No, that's
questions.
all. Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Navarro, we're going to get to your brief. If you wait on 1 second, please. Okay, Mr. Navarro, 164 Fort Street, please.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if you turn to page 13, so we were asking for a reduction to 232,723. However, having looked at the assessor's evidence and my own in greater detail, I believe we are going to ask for confirmation on this assessment.
Okay. Okay. So you're asking for the assessment to be confirmed that after reviewing the assessor's brief, you're asking for the assessment to be confirmed at $371,000. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Martins, any questions of the applicant?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Robert, any questions of the applicant?
No questions of the applicant. Thank you.
Mark, any questions?
Oh, there's a story there, but I won't ask any questions.
Are you sure?
No, it's all right.
Okay, okay. Ms. Martins, any requirement for summary?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Navarro, any comments? Summary?
No summary required. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes 164 Fort Street. And we have heard all the items scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
Thank you,
for both
Mr. Chair.
parties for appearing. Thank you. And you'll hear
Thank you
from
very
us as soon as possible.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.